Well, only in America is it controversial for me to begin tonight's program by declaring that global warming is really happening. For doubters, 332 straight months of above average temperatures is not proof enough. And even among believers, there's a fight over who to blame, God or man, natural cycles or fossil fuels. The very words climate change were noticeably absent from this past election, but Sandy brought them back in a big way, and eager to fuel the conversation, two artists convinced that they can help skeptics see climate change in ways scientists cannot. If you drive outside of Juneau, Alaska, and paddle across this gorgeous lake, past Nugget Falls and through the blueberry-colored icebergs, you will find Mendenhall Glacier, or what's left of it.
So the ice came out to right about here in 2007.
Wow.
Yeah.
5 years ago, we'd be bumping into the glacier right here.
Yeah.
And if you time your visit just right, you might run into James Baylog, nature photographer, geomorphologist, and reformed climate change skeptic.
Honestly, when I first heard about the man-made climate change story, I sort of had a knee-jerk, reflexive skepticism.
But the more he learned about ice, the more he worried. The more time he spent in the Arctic, the more he saw ancient glaciers disappearing before his lens, and the more he thought about his kids.
And I imagined myself as an old man sitting on a rocking chair. And I hear my daughters saying to me, you know, what were you doing when this monumental change was happening?
And so he launched the Extreme Ice Survey, an effort to capture the changing planet by placing time-lapse cameras at the top of the world. And as you can see in the new film, Chasing Ice,
Look at that. Look at the whole thing.
that is no easy feat.
This knee has had 2 surgeries on it already.
Between the bum knee, the godforsaken cold winds, and the fragile cameras, the whole thing nearly killed him.
The electronics cost me years of my life in terms of anxiety and tension and high blood pressure and just general emotional suffering.
That's interesting to know, considering I've seen some of your critics online who say you're in this for the money.
Yeah, right. Well, you know what they can do? They can kiss my you-know-what about 10 times.
But 5 years later, here is just one small taste of the fruits of his labor, visual proof of Mendenhall's steady retreat. Now, in the winter, will this come back?
The retreat will tend to slow down in the wintertime.
Okay.
And maybe it even stabilizes or creeps forward a tiny little bit. But boy, as soon as the warming season comes back on, it continues to gobble itself backwards.
The satellite pictures back that up. Since '79, half of the Arctic sea ice has disappeared. And just this year, 4.5 million square miles melted away, an area the size of the U.S. and Mexico combined.
Okay, here it comes.
Meanwhile, back when Jim was mounting his first ice cameras, an artist in Brooklyn named Eve Mosier was pushing the kind of machine you use to chalk lines on a ball field. After reading a scary 2001 prediction from NASA that climate change-powered storms would wipe out entire neighborhoods, she decided to see which neighborhoods by marking the high water line around New York City.
This would be underwater, this would be dry. So there'd be a little dry strip down the center of the road, and all of this would be underwater.
The chalk was gone by the time Sandy hit, but the lines were right. And in many places, the damage exceeded her worst fears. And suddenly, that wishy-washy conversation changed.
Not so much of an I told you so as I'm really sorry this had to happen. You know, the fact that it takes something so drastic, despite the fact that his people in his administration know about it. You know, that it really takes us having a visceral experience to shift even the conversation, much less actions.
America is the last developed nation still arguing over all of this. On one side, those with the faith that humans could never alter the planet so profoundly. Happy to agree are oil and coal companies and a political party strongly opposed to any new environmental regulations.
President Obama promised to begin to slow the rise of the oceans and to heal the planet. My promise is to help you and your family.
On the other side are 99% of climate scientists with PhDs and the president.
I am a firm believer that climate change is real, that it is impacted by human behavior and carbon emissions.
And happy to agree are most of the insurance companies that insure insurance companies, like Munich Re. The German giant reported last month that North America is getting the worst of it, as weather disasters cost 30,000 lives and over $1 trillion in the last 30 years, as storms quintupled. And they're warning clients to brace for much more as the melting accelerates.
In 1984, the glacier was down there 11 miles away. And today, it's back here, receded 11 miles. The glacier is retreating, but it's also thinning at the same time. It's like air being let out of a balloon. You can see what's called the trim line. It's the high water mark of the glacier in 1984. That vertical change is the height of the Empire State Building.
Skeptics will note that on the other side of the planet from Baylog, Antarctic ice is actually expanding to record levels. But that is cold comfort when scientists explain that North Pole ice is melting 8 times faster than the South Pole ice can grow in the winter, 25 times faster in the summer. And so, Eve, who has traded her chalk machine in for a stroller the last couple of years, has agreed to revive her high water line project in Miami, Philadelphia, and London. And James vows to keep those cameras snapping, at least until the glaciers start growing.
And I'd like to be able to say, girls, I was doing everything that I knew how to do with the skills that I had. And that was witness, tell the story, and give voice to this landscape.
Sound the alarm.
Sound the alarm.
Do you think we've reached a tipping point where people are hearing that alarm yet? Or do you think it'll take a major disaster before the world will pull together?
Well, I'm afraid that it may take, a really serious, unpleasant set of events before the world truly knuckles down and takes this seriously and does everything that we're already capable of doing to mitigate it. But I hope that's not the case. I hope we're smarter than that.